Hi, I'm Celeste, and this is 10 Minutes of History from the Balboa Island Museum. Today we're going to talk about the history of Halloween. So I made this little booklet maybe 6 years ago when we had our old museum location. And so it was kind of fun to look up why things were the way they were on Halloween today. And there's different schools of thought on it, but I'm going to give you the one that I researched back then 6 years ago. So basically these traditions came from Ireland. They were heavily followed in Ireland, and then when we had our big migration during the 1800s of the Irish to America, that's when those traditions were brought over to America. So I think in our last one I told you just briefly how we got the name Halloween. So the name Halloween comes from the fact that November 1st was All Saints Day, and we had the Halloween tradition prior to there being All Saints Day on November 1st because the church really took over All Saints Day later. So the tradition goes way, way back prior to that too. But anyway, when you have All Saints Day, which is All Holy Day, and then you have the eve of that day, so we had All Hallows Eve, which is something that some people still call Halloween, and then we translate that just pretty much directly down to Halloween. So it's a contraction of All Hallows Eve. So, like I say, way back in the Middle Ages, we had these Halloween being celebrated. And one of the things that we forget here when we live in a town and we have lights is it was really dark out at night. And so there was a lot of fear of the dark at that time too, because if you went anywhere, you had to carry a candle with you if you wanted to have any light along the way. And so we'll talk about that in a second, how we get into the jack-o'-lantern too. But what happened is, back in those Middle Ages, they believed that anyone who died during that year roamed the earth after they were dead, up until November 1st. November 1st was the day that they were finally able to transition into the next world. And so as they were roaming the earth, it was pretty scary, and it was out at night. And then the last night that they were going to be here was going to be a big night that they would be out and all roaming around and getting ready to transition. And so the thought was, if you dressed up like one of them, or what you thought they looked like, they would leave you alone. They would think that you were out doing the same thing, roaming around, scaring people. And if you didn't want to be one of those people that was going to be scared, look like one of them. And so that's how people started dressing up in costumes. So they were basically trying to look like these spirits that were trying to transition. Let's see. So that's why we wear costumes. And today, of course, we have fun costumes, but that was the basis of that. How did trick-or-treating begin? So trick-or-treating began because the villagers would originally leave out food and drink for these people to make them happy so they wouldn't come in and invade their homes. And then later it transitions into kids going door to door asking for prayers for these people. And they had these prayer cakes that people would give out, prayer cakes to the kids. And then later, like in your grandparents' time, you gave out treats to kids so they didn't destroy your home because they were out there throwing eggs and later, of course, in my time it became teepeeing and things like that, but they could do quite a bit of destruction, burning fires and things like that in your grandparents' time. So this was just a thing that said, hey, instead of doing this trick to my house, I'm going to give you this treat, and it's just to placate them. So that's why do we carve pumpkins? So the Irish, they carved turnips because that was more prolific there. And it was just something that you could carry with you. You could put a flame in there and carry it around. And again, so that it wasn't so dark and so that you could be out there with the spirits and, oh, my spider fell over, and not be quite so frightened by them. So, and again, remembering how dark it was this day. So, also the scary faces that were carved into those turnips was to scare those spirits away too. When this tradition comes to America in the 1800s, we use pumpkins because we have pumpkins here and because they're easy to carve, soft inside. And so that tradition turns from turnips over into pumpkins. Why do we bob for apples? I love this one. So if you, as you know, today's bobbing for apples is you have a big tub in water and the apples are in there and you try and grab them with your mouth. This was for teenagers to do back in the Middle Ages. And what they would do is they would bob for apples just like we would today. And once they got an apple, they would have to peel that apple into one big long string, throw it over their shoulder, and that supposedly long string of apple peel would spell out the initial of the person they were going to marry. So that's why we bob for apples today, because they did back then. I don't know anybody that throws it over their shoulder anymore. I think we just eat them now. So why do we fear black cats? Black cats are feared because there was the thought that a witch could turn herself into anything she wanted. So she could transform herself into another body, and that she commonly turned herself into a black cat. So it's not the black cat you're fearing, it's the witch that you're fearing, because there's an assumption that that black cat is actually a witch. And our last thing is, was there a real jack-o'-lantern? Probably not, although there was a character called Stinky Jack. And this was, again, from Ireland. And he had made a bad deal. And so his punishment was that he was to roam the earth as a spirit forever. And so today, the reason that we call these turnips or pumpkins jack-o'-lanterns is because it's in honor of Stinky Jack, who made a bad deal. And that's it. That's our little brief history of Halloween, just fun stuff. I hope you enjoy that. Thanks for listening. Bye.